Hello, and welcome back to the podcast that must not be named. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Luke.
And we are here starting Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. You have in your hands the pivotal fourth novel in the 7-part tale of Harry Potter's training as a wizard and his coming of age. Harry wants to get away from the pernicious Dursleys and go to the International Quidditch Cup with Hermione, Ron, and the Weasleys. He wants to dream about Cho Chang, his crush, and maybe do more than dream. He wants to find out about the mysterious event that's supposed to take place at Hogwarts this year, an event involving 2 other rival schools of magic and a competition that hasn't happened for 100 years. He wants to be a normal 14-year-old wizard. Unfortunately for Harry Potter, he's not normal, even by wizarding standards. And in his case, different can be deadly.
So, book 4. This is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This book is 734 pages in the Scholastic edition.
Deep sigh.
Deep sigh. Totally worth it. I remember getting this and it was like, oh my gosh, will I ever finish this? And then, yeah, it was just a couple days later. So it wasn't that big of a deal. You fly through it. And with that 734 page tome, it is 17.9% of the entire Harry Potter series. This was released July 8th in the year 2000. So Y2K passed, computer systems were safe, and this wonderful book was released.
To Peter Rowling, in memory of Mr. Ridley, and to Susan Sladen, who helped Harry out of his cupboard.
This places us just past 25% through the entire series as well. So we're a quarter of the way through, starting book 4.
Chapter 1, The Riddle House. This chapter was 16 pages and is 2.18% of the book.
Chapter 1, The Enigma Estate. We enter the town of Little Hangleton to find Lord Voldemort and Wormtail have broken into the abandoned home of he who must not be named deceased father. They are overheard talking about the Quidditch World Cup, an unnamed loyal servant at Hogwarts, the death of Berka Jorkins, and the need to use Harry Potter. All of this is overheard by Frank Bryce, the caretaker of the Riddle House. Frank had been accused of killing the Riddles nearly 50 years ago. However, since the police could not determine a cause of death, as all 3 of them were perfectly healthy, apart from being dead, he was let go. Frank was just about to make a run for it when the Dark Lord snake Nagini spots him in the hall and reports the intruder to her master. Voldemort confronts Frank and, in an instant, kills him with a flash of light. Miles away, a sleeping Harry Potter suddenly wakes.
So, we have a lot of characters to discuss in this chapter. We have the Riddle family, which include Mr. and Mrs. Riddle, and their grown-up son.
Was he named? I don't think
Tom.
he was named. It was named Tom.
He was named Tom.
Then we had, all of the fun folk in Little Hangleton. I'm a big fan of all the folk there, by the way.
Yeah, so some of them include the maid, who is the one that found the Riddle family.
Then we have
still in their dinner things.
Then we have the cook, who was quite the gossip.
Right, I know. She was talking to the woman at the bar, the man at the bar, the landlord.
Different from the excited woman at the bar.
Who was talking to Dot.
Ooh, I like Dot.
Yeah, she was fun. So those are some of the standard Little Hangletons that we met. We also obviously meet Frank Bryce in this discussion. We hear about him later in the chapter. We actually meet him and spend some time with him. We also have mentions of the next family to inhabit the Riddle House and the next.
And currently there is a wealthy man who owns the Riddle House.
Right. He is also mentioned, as well as some boys from the village.
We also get a mention of Bertha Jorkins.
Yes.
Who may or may not be dead.
We'll get into that. We'll talk about that here shortly. And the final character that we meet for the first time is Nagini, Voldemort's pet snake.
And we do include snakes in our character introductions.
We do. I believe we included the Brazilian boa constrictor in book 1. So
that's true. All right.
Keeping in true podcast that must not be named form, snakes are acceptable.
As are owls.
As are owls.
Okay.
And cats and rats and toads.
And lions and tigers and bears. Oh my.
Which is a lot of those things.
I'm moving on. We're going to talk about locations.
Let's talk about some locations.
We went some places. I like when we go new places.
I love these chapters.
So we went to Little Hangleton and Great Hangleton. Two different places. Although I assume very close in proximity.
Yes, I would assume at this point they're maybe just down the road from each other, kind of like either sister towns or, clearly
subset of the other.
Yeah, maybe one's kind of on top of the hill, one's at the bottom of the hill kind of thing. But we know that in Great Hangleton is where the Riddle House is located, and Little Hangleton is where the bar named The Hanged Man is located. I love that name. I love The Hanged Man.
Because why not?
I feel like she came up with the pub name and then named the town. That's my guess.
Well, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Reminds me of the Green Dragon for some reason. Local pub.
I agree. I was very much getting
obviously
over the hill and under the hill kind of a vibe from all of this.
Yes, very much. So that is the pub in the Shire, in Hobbiton specifically.
Is the Green Dragon that one? Oh,
the Prancing Pony is in Bree.
That's the one I was thinking.
Prancing Pony. I think both apply.
I agree. We didn't really have any vocabulary that we didn't know.
Yeah.
There was words unknown to Frank Bryce, but there were all the words we had before.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
I guess what time it is now, Luke?
What time is it?
It's illustration discussion time because I remembered.
You remembered because I put the description, the illustration in the workbook, which is perfect. See, we've consistently, hopefully, gotten better.
Book 4, new Melissa. I'm going to remember the illustration section. And guess what? It's a chair.
I like this one.
Okay.
We see the chair. We see the back of the chair, which is even less appealing with the way you described it. But we see the back of the chair up against this hearth, right? This mantelpiece with a roaring fire going, a snake, clearly Nagini kind of slithering behind it. For how sinister this chapter seems to get, I like that this is the angle that Marie Grandpré chose to go with. It's kind of Frank's view from the hallway is how I look at it. And I don't know, it just reminds me of the claw from Inspector Gadget.
I was just going to say that. Oh, I even looked up who was that villain.
Next time, Gadget.
Yes. He just needs a hand petting the snake instead of the cat, and it would be perfect.
It'd be perfect.
Okay, I like the illustration a little better.
Good. I'm glad you do. I just like that scene because it is sinister.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, Melissa.
What were some of your thoughts?
We kind of touched on this, but I loved the Hanged Man and the Little Hangletons. It feels so perfectly small towny. And the gossip that clearly is, that's what's gonna happen. And it's unfortunate that Frank Bryce is kind of a hermit here because he had a hard war. And I think the excited woman at the bar, is she the one that says that Frank had a hard war? I think it was.
It's either her or the cook. The cook said a lot of things.
Yes, I think it was the excited woman in the corner talking to Dot, and she said, Frank had a hard war, and then Dot's like, well, I always had a bad feeling about him kind of thing, but it just seems natural that the somewhat outcast person here gets thrust into such a negative light, and I don't like that they do that, but it just feels like that's what would happen for this small town. So
this is going to be way off topic, but it goes with it. I have been watching a lot of BBC shows lately.
Okay.
And one of my favorite ones is called Broadchurch.
Okay.
Okay. Great show, by the way. And it's very similar to this chapter in that there's a murder in a small town and everybody thinks it's everybody else and everybody it's set in present day, but it has that same sort of feel that everybody knows something and everybody it's so sure that it's got to be this. It's really good. And coincidentally, not stars, but one of the actors in it is, name I cannot remember, but Filch, aka
David Bradley.
Yes, him. So I always like watching him.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. The more I've seen him in, the more impressed I've been.
So totally recommend that show,
so
especially if you like the little
Broadchurch.
Broadchurch, one word. David Tennant is the main actor in it.
Okay. So this also kind of reminds me of, was it Judd Fry from Oklahoma? Wasn't he accused
Judd is
of a murder?
Yes.
Right?
Of something.
And it's a little ambiguous as to whether or not he did it. So this is Judd Fry from Oklahoma. And
poor Judd Fry is dead.
I don't know what
I'll
it is,
gather around his coffin now and cry. I could keep going. I won't.
He wasn't very old.
He had a heart of gold. Oh, why did such a filler have to die?
But it kind of feels like that to me. Does that seem fitting to you?
I agree completely, and I really appreciate the opportunity to sing.
Perfect. I've been trying for 4 books, for 3 whole books to get you an opportunity here.
Okay, goal for book 4.
Check. My next comment here is one that you a little bit referenced as well in Magicabulary. Voldemort talking to Frank Bryce about the term muggle and how I think it's hilarious that Voldemort just can't turn the know-it-all thing off. He's such this sinister bad guy, but he still is so worried that Frank Bryce understands the definition of this word that he takes.
Why are you defining it? Just kill the guy.
Right. I'll give credit to the chapter titles were so good on this one, but he's just maybe they talk about this scene and they hearken it to maybe Voldemort kind of relates to him because they're both pretty old, and so he's I get it, we're old, sometimes I'm forgetful too, so I try to explain things to people. It's just hilarious. So my final note here is going to be harken back to the illustration because I didn't forget. And it's kind of my overall thought on this chapter. The scene in the Riddle House where Frank Bryce, he goes up, he tracks down these voices, they're talking about murder, and he's clearly terrified, right? He's afraid. This feels very horror film-y, he's scared, he can't move, even though he knows that he should, right? I don't think we've really had anything like this style of terrifying, actual scary situations in these books. We've had the Shrieking Shack scene right when you get there, when you don't know that Sirius is actually a good guy. That's kind of scary, but it goes away real quick.
And I think the books usually end with a big scary moment, like book 1 when Harry faces Voldemort, and book 2 with the basilisk. But we've built up to those to walk into this. Right.
Yeah. And they're so action filled too. So it kind of cuts that tension a little bit because Harry, obviously Harry's not even in this too. So you almost know it, hearkening to podcast that floats down here, reading Stephen King's It. This is a new character for us coming against 2 evil characters that we know.
Established evil charters.
We are pretty sure he's not going to make it out of this chapter healthy, right? Mm-mm. So this is just the first time we've had that. And yes, this is essentially a prologue chapter because there is no Harry. There's a mention of him at the very, very end that he woke up. The way this book opens is quite different to me. And this really fits into the thought that I've always had that the end of book 3 is where the story really starts. And I think this chapter has a big part to play in why I've always felt that way.
I agree, because I feel like this is where we realize that the story is bigger than Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. And this is our very first non-Harry chapter since chapter 1 of book 1.
Right. And that was so whimsical and silly and making fun of the Dursleys. And it's just a totally different
vibe.
No reservation. There's nothing to be afraid of here.
Right.
It's a joyous occasion more than anything.
Mostly, but yes. But I don't know. I like that the story, this is where it grows. This is where it grows up.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because we step away from Harry's perspective and we realize that there are greater ramifications than just Harry Potter. in
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of blows the world up. It expands real quick. We just haven't had this. And for where I was as a reader, let's see, this came out in 2000. I was 11. I had just turned 11 a month before this book came out, pre-ordered it, got it, and everything. And this is what it opens up to. And this is quite a bit different than what we've had. And that was always really exciting. What kind of notes did you have on this chapter?
I see dead people.
Yeah?
We haven't had dead people since chapter 1, book 1. Once again, like, nobody's really died up till now. Like, there's not been death.
Chapter 1, book 1 referencing Harry's parents.
Harry's parents.
And then Quirrell at the end of book 1.
But that was so glossed over. I don't ever think they actually came out and said he's dead. I think it was very worded to kind of hide it. But not only are there
a vanilla death, if you will.
Yeah.
Real soft.
Yeah. And not just dead people, reference dead people right there on the floor. Dead. Just dead. Let's describe what he looks like. Dead. It was another moment.
Dead.
Right. It's like I'm D-U-N done. No. It was just it was another example here in the first chapter. This is a different book.
I mean, picking the book up, you can tell, it's as thick as the other 3, essentially.
Using my muscles to lift the book.
Right. And you get this to lead it off. It just adds to this is kind of like you said, this is grown up a bit from the last 3 books that I read.
So let's talk about Frank Bryce.
Let's do it.
I feel bad for him. He's had, like you said, had a hard life, but I don't know if I really like him. I don't know if I'm supposed to. I feel like he's written very ambiguously. Like he's not like committing crimes and doing bad things, but he's not probably a very nice person. That's kind of the feeling you get from him or about him when people are talking about him. And there's nothing really to change your opinion on that. And then I think it's weird that he stays in the, gardener's house this whole time. I don't know. I can't ever make up my mind about him. And we're given so little before he's just killed off that I can't decide if I'm supposed to feel for him and be really sad he's dead, or if it was purposefully written where I didn't get emotionally attached so that his death is shocking, but not traumatizing. I don't know. What do you think?
I really like Frank Bryce. As a character, I very, very much enjoy what he is, the way he's described to us. I feel terrible for him. I feel like he had a lifelong struggle that he had to go through, essentially, living in this town. And yeah, I mean, he was in the war. We don't know specifically which war that is. We would assume maybe World War II. But that's traumatizing in itself, being, in war and all of that. And so he gets this job working for this house as a gardener, probably just wants a simple, quiet life. He's had enough action. He's just looking to escape and deal with his own demons that he's had to live through, is how I've always viewed it. And so with that, I've always really felt for him a lot, in that it reminds me of Hagrid and the injustice that he has had to live through, the social injustice that he's had to live through, even though he's completely innocent of these crimes, as far as we can tell. I mean, I don't think, he's released because it's almost like, we have no idea how these people were killed, right?
Right.
So I think it's pretty unlikely that Frank did it. I think we're led to believe that Frank didn't do it.
Right.
And the social persecution that he has to endure, I think that's only going to heighten his sense of insecurity in himself, or his
trust in others.
Exactly. His want to be more secluded and isolated.
Right.
And the fact that this happens and he's just trying to do his job, right? I mean, he's just trying to take care of the place, and the kids are tormenting him, on and off the rest of his life. And he's just going up to check out the house because he hears a noise, and yeah, he's scared. And yeah, he should probably go call the police like he threatens he's going to before he even goes into the room, right?
Right.
But he still shows a certain bravery going in there, standing up to him, not knowing who he is, obviously, but he knows that they're talking about murders that they've already done, murders that they're planning on doing more. And he still goes in there on his own 2 feet, standing up straight, and faces this devil. I've always been pretty impressed with the internal fortitude that he had to do that, knowing that,
all right,
I can't fight this off.
All right, I'll give you that. Frank Bryce, not so bad.
Not so bad.
Ready for my next one?
Yes.
It's so weird to hear Voldemort talking.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, like I don't really have any more thoughts on that. It's just weird.
It's been since, I mean, well, we never heard this version of, well, this is the first time we've seen this rendition, but it still sounds like it has similar things to what we've heard from book 1 with, and Harry's flashbacks with the Dementor, with the high-pitched voice and.
Right.
Yeah. A little scary.
And not just that, but also like just talking. Not even that he has this high-pitched voice, but that he's just, it's like a normal conversation. It's not, oh, I'm going to kill you and oh, get the boy and oh, big dramatic climax. Like that's just what he sounds like hanging out. That's just him and Wormtail spending the evening together.
How'd you like Voldemort getting to know him? What'd you think of him?
He's way cooler than Wormtail.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. He is a guy with a plan.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants. He has a certain way of he wants to get it done, regardless of if that's maybe the best way. He's not necessarily going to take some suggestions from the underlings, even if they're good ideas, right? Like,
right.
When in doubt, listen to all the ideas and take the best. No. Obviously his idea is the best, so he's just going to do that. And how dare you question me? But I like that he has a plan. I'm not saying I like Voldemort. I don't think that's allowed, but I appreciate his drive because last book we were given a bad guy who was just the worst.
A total wimp, right?
I mean
with Pettigrew being the bad guy.
I really
Such
can't.
a letdown for your villain, right?
Right. So at least now it's like, no, here's your bad guy. He's really bad.
And he's impressively bad. Like,
yes, he's so fully formed as a character. And we've literally spent 2 chapters with him in now 3+ books. You've gotten to see him twice and that's it. And he is that strong of a character. I mean, he's Sauron all over again, right? Except more present.
Do you think he's any less frightening having seen him up close like this? Or do you think it adds to it? Because we've found him to be a pretty compelling villain off screen. The threat of him being there. Do you think seeing him like this makes him more personable, less scary, more scary because of how determined he is? What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's pretty freaking creepy looking. The weird baby thing.
The actual,
yeah. Like, it's just creepy. So that helps with like the scariness level without it being like too terrifying for children. Because it's a creepy baby. Like, how creepy can babies be? Except he's a pretty creepy baby. So I don't know. I'm adequately scared by him.
Okay.
I don't remember being more or less scared of him at this point when I first read it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I feel like the way this chapter is done, I feel like it heightens the sinisterness that he really brings.
And I think it's less about him and more about the fact that she was bold enough to put him first.
Yes.
Like, it's in your face. Here he is. It's not a question. It's not a possibility looming in the background. He is right here. I probably won't, my guess would be we're not going to hear about him in a while.
Chekhov's gun. Wait for it. Like, right?
Yep.
I mean, here's your bad guy. He's around.
Yep.
He's coming for you. Know that now.
Like, he specifically said, I'm going for Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
There's no ifs this time.
Right. And he very clearly said, no, I'm not going to do whatever I'm going to do with anybody else. It's going to be Harry.
That guy.
No matter what.
Right. So, I mean, that's a pretty bold move to put that much information right up front and then flash to Harry. Can I make fun of Wormtail one more time?
Oh, please.
He's such a whiny baby. Ugh, even if he had a good idea, I don't think I would listen to him either.
Have, any confidence in what you're saying.
Or a backbone.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Exactly.
That's all. He's just
no one
so
wants to
annoying.
Hear that.
No, can he die soon, please? I just don't like him. If we're going to kill people off, I pick him. Easily expendable.
Okay.
And then I got to talk about the snake.
Okay.
I was very surprised by the snake the first time I read this. Like, Voldemort talking to snakes and them having a conversation and him using the information and the fact that the snake was huge and like a pet. And then you find out that something about milking her.
Yep.
It's so like...
There's like some sort of sustenance that this version of Voldemort's living off of.
No, I just remember reading that going, dude, he's got a snake. That's pretty. It just adds to that fear factor, if you will, of this guy's legit a bad guy.
So typically when you talk about milking a snake, it's almost always venom that you're getting from it.
Yes.
That's weird. Like, what?
That's true.
Basically, there's some sort of snake venom here that goes into a potion, I guess. I guess that's not too far-fetched, but just to be clear for our younger readers that milking a snake, most likely getting venom from the fangs.
Creepy. Add that to the creepy baby thing. Creepy.
There's a lot of weird things in this chapter.
Yep. If you're not scared already, you should be. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Melissa.
It looks like you've got some questions.
I sure do.
Are they burning in this book as well?
Oh, always.
Awesome. Go for it.
Question 1. What information did Voldemort gain from Bertha Jorkins?
I have no idea because I don't really know who she is to know what kind of information she would have that would be pertinent to him. Maybe like, I don't know, train schedules or something. I have no idea. What do you think?
I thought it said a little bit. So they mention, it would be foolish to act before the Quidditch World Cup is over. I wonder, like along with what you're saying, if she has anything to do with scheduling that, or, if they got information about anything to do with that, because if they've been, I guess the news has been out there, but but
they're all coming into the country.
And I guess Pettigrew's been a rat in Harry and Ron's dormitory all last year, where they were likely talking about it. So he would have that information that it was happening next year, right? Or it's probably pretty well known.
Had scheduling information and, you know what I mean? Maybe new travel times or...
Yeah, other than that,
when everything would be cleared out. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But apparently it was valuable enough to kill her over instead of trying to modify her memory, which they had to undo to get the information. So I don't know. It seems like there's probably something bigger there.
Okay.
Question 2. Is Pettigrew a good caretaker?
Well, Voldemort's not dead yet, so yes.
So success equals good.
I mean...
It's adequate.
I wouldn't hire him to be my babysitter.
Right.
But I also really hate Voldemort, so I don't really care.
I find their interactions really interesting. The way, Voldemort calls him out for, I can feel the way you're basically trembling when you touch me, and just how afraid. It's just weird and messed up.
So creepy. Ew.
All right, question 3. What does Voldemort actually look like?
Creepy baby. Big creepy baby with giant head and I don't know, Stewie.
Family Guy. That's awesome.
Mom.
Mommy.
What? Hi.
So it says, and then the chair was facing Frank, and he saw what was sitting in it. His walking stick fell to the floor with a clatter. He opened his mouth and let out a scream. He was screaming so loudly that he never heard the words the thing in the chair spoke as it raised a wand. There was a flash of green light, a rushing sound, and Frank Bryce crumpled. He was dead before he hit the floor. So we don't get much of a description of what it is that he looks like, but...
Maybe it's like Audrey, too, from Little Shop of Horrors, and he's like a man-eating plant.
That's probably it. I like that.
Feed me.
Venomous piranha plant.
Nice.
All right, question 4. Would Frank have been able to get away with his bad leg?
Yes, if he moved faster, as soon as he heard a little bit of it, he should have just left. He stayed way too long. I feel like he was able to creep up quietly enough that they didn't notice. He could have easily crept away, but he stayed too long. Now, could he have gotten away once the snake saw him? No, he was done for then. But if he had left before the snake came, yeah, he would have made it out.
So there's a good chance we don't know where the snake was, right? We don't know where Nagini was. He could have seen Frank when he came in.
That's
and
true.
was just hanging out, being like, all
I'm gonna
right.
watch this guy.
He's listening too long. Let's basically Nagini saying this about Frank, like, yeah, if you just would have left right away, wouldn't have been a big deal. But
Right.
he's lingering, he's listening. Now I have to go tattle. But I don't know if that's true. But there's a good chance that even if Frank would have tried to limp out slowly, that Nagini could have seen him on the way out still too. And I think if that would have happened, he still would not have gotten very far. But
Trying to get away is better than standing still.
yeah, the action, Harry wouldn't have been standing still for that long.
No, he probably would have run into the room and tried to fight, so that would have been dumb too.
All right.
But
bear fight. Question 5. What essential task does Voldemort have in mind for Wormtail?
well, theoretically, he's not going to kill him because he was, Wormtail was like, "Oh, are you going to kill me like you did Bertha?" And Voldemort was like, "No," which makes me sad because he should.
Well, he's pretty highly dependent on him right now.
This is true.
At least currently.
I'm going to say he's going to keep him around as a personal chef.
And, other followers would probably give their right hands to do that, which is what he says.
Right.
That's a pretty honorable thing to do for the Dark Lord, right?
I was the Dark Lord's cook.
Yep.
Sure.
That's a thing you can hang your chef hat on.
There you go. That's what I think it is. Hey, Luke, let's do some superlatives. What's your favorite line?
It's kind of a series of lines, and it goes into a scene that we were just kind of talking about. So it starts with, "Do not lie to me," hissed the second voice. "I can always tell, Wormtail. You are regretting that you ever returned to me. I revolt you. I see you flinch when you look at me, feel you shudder when you touch me. No, my devotion to your lordship. Your devotion is nothing more than cowardice. You would not be here if you had anywhere else to go." And then they continue on. But it just fits exactly with how we've seen Pettigrew. Like, no matter which side he's trying to be on, they know that he's weak. They know that he would rather be anywhere else, but he's too afraid to do so because he needs to have protection, even if it's with people that he's terrified with. I like that Voldemort knows that, because we don't like Wormtail and he doesn't for this same reason. It's weird to be like on
in
the
agreement.
same, right? Yeah. Like the enemy of my enemy kind of thing.
Yeah, that doesn't work here.
Yeah. Not quite.
So my favorite line is in a very different part of this chapter. And it's really about the autopsy report on the bodies of the Riddles. And I apologize in advance because it is the entire paragraph, but I find it perfect. Here we go. The police had never read an odder report. A team of doctors had examined the bodies and had concluded that none of the Riddles had been poisoned, stabbed, shot, strangled, suffocated, or, as far as they could tell, harmed at all. In fact, the report continued in a tone of unmistakable bewilderment. The Riddles all appeared to be in perfect health, apart from the fact that they were all dead. The doctors did note, as though determined to find something wrong with the bodies, that each of the Riddles had a look of terror upon his or her face. But, as the frustrated police said, who ever heard of 3 people being frightened to death?
Lying there, with their eyes wide open, cold as ice, still in their dinner things. Yeah, I love that. That's good.
It's so funny and so well described. And like, whoever heard of 3 people and the report had to find something wrong. Like, okay, there's got to be something wrong with them besides just being dead, right? Like,
right.
Come on, guys, think. You can just see these doctors in a room going, I have no idea what to say here.
I feel like they need to call in House MD, and see if
right?
Like that's where it seems like they're at. But this small town or the neighboring area, they're not going to have those resources.
No. All right, Luke, do you have a chapter MVP?
I do. For me, this is pretty easy, and I've kind of already described why. But Frank Bryce, the courage that he shows is pretty impressive. Yeah, he probably should have gotten out of there. So maybe not the brightest, but that's okay. You don't have to be bright to be brave, and sometimes you can make it work. But it's one of those. At least he, died standing on his feet. He kind of died, for like with honor. And went out fighting as much as he could. So
I agree. I think I'm going to give the honorable mention to Frank too. I really wanted to give it to one or more of the little Hangleton residents, but none of them really struck me as much as Frank did, mostly because he didn't go, like you said, didn't go down with a fight and was even on his feet thinking like, oh, my wife knows I'm up here, and like all those things of just, I have the story and you know what? I like had a comeback for everything that even in the face of this really creepy thing wasn't going to back down. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Didn't do him any good, but
yeah, that's true.
I appreciate it.
Good character.
Thus ends chapter 1. Only 36 to go.
Chapter 1 in the books.
That's right. We'll see you in 7 days. However, between now and then, we have places you can visit us. One of those places is our website, thepodcastthat.com, where you can find a plethora of information, including our new Patreon page where you can support us. There are episodes from all of our shows, along with a multitude of things that you can spend your time searching us and finding more about our shows and ways you can help us out. We have an email if you have questions or comments that you'd like to share at thepodcastthat@gmail.com. We also have a Twitter handle, which you can find us at anytime at NotNamedPodcast.
Please subscribe, like, rate, and leave comments on iTunes and YouTube. Those comments really do help us get more exposure to other Harry Potter fans like you. Also tell your friends, that is, word of mouth goes a long way to convincing other people to check us out. We would appreciate it.
Join us next week as we discuss chapter number 2.
The Scar. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.
I feel like for me, this was the first time, and I'll hold on to that comment. I'll harken back there, so I'll cut that, and I'll talk about that later.
$10 says he forgets.
I will not forget.
$10 says he forgets to cut it out.